I grew up with two parents that handicapped. So my dad was quadriplegic.
Oh my gosh.
He broke his neck when he was 17, was in a wheelchair, limited use of his hands and, his appendages and things like that. My mom is blind. My dad passed away in 2012. My mom's still kicking at 82. So, but I think with them, it was really the sense that, you know what, not everything's going to work out the way you think it is, and you just keep moving, keep working at it. And I think I got a work ethic from them, or at least a ability to see a bigger picture and not always get tied up in the minute details or the drama at the moment.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast. Today, we're hopping back in the booth with another amazing guest. We got Adam in the house. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I think we're going to have an interesting conversation. I would say you're more of a corporate creative and a manager of creatives, which I think will be a fun conversation today. We're going to kind of talk about your whole career path. So I think, are you excited to be interviewed, or are you scared about this one?
Not scared. I just, we'll see how interesting this actually is, but I'm happy to chat. And no, I think it's been a fun journey. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people think they're not as interesting as they are, but I interview people for a living, so I think we'll find some interest in your life story. Adam and I got connected, I would say 3-4 years ago, something like that.
I think when I was
in Ankeny. I'm pretty sure it was like you and Emily and some other people that were there. I was trying, because earlier today I'm like, how did we first meet? So I was trying to backtrack a little bit.
I connected you with a former colleague of mine that worked over at Craig, I believe.
Oh, yep.
You guys are looking at that beautiful building.
It's
space.
They've got a ton of stuff going on over there. So yeah, it's like trying to reverse engineer how we all got connected. But
for sure.
But yeah, I think if you have a chatty Uber driver and a 20-minute drive to the airport or something, what do you tell these people when they say, well, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah. So currently, I am, my title is Director of Brand and Creative Services. So really what that means is that at the company I work for, Thene, I oversee the brand of the company, overall the corporate brand. I also oversee a team of designers and writers who, again, this is an in-house team. We support every aspect of design and copy for the company. So everything from internal communications to product brochures to advertisements, video shoots that we do. We often do scripting and creative direct and work with outside vendors and team and partners in that. But I came up as a graphic designer. So started off as a graphic designer 20 plus years ago, and then over time have kind of shifted different roles in different companies or in different types of industries. So
sure. Well, it's interesting to see the evolution of being a creative and then managing creatives and kind of going bigger picture. What was that journey like for you to go from being the person that's clicking the buttons to like helping oversee the vision of other people that click the buttons now?
Yeah, for me, I think for a lot of people, it's a gradual journey, right? It's every time you take on a new project or if you're at a new role, new company, you often are learning new things. It definitely also a lot of it was having people who saw potential in me and invested time and energy into me as well. So I had some really good mentors along the way, leaders who gave me opportunities to stretch me and give me opportunities to try new things or try things that were either I didn't think they were accessible at the time, or even just were a little scary at the time. But you take little steps, and over time, after a while, you look back and you're like, oh, that's kind of how I got here. Sure.
It's not all at once. It's just gradual over time. That's cool. Before we get too far into where you're at now, I think it'd be helpful for people to hear kind of your backstory. So I always say take us back to the very beginning. It's I don't have a big leather couch, but if we're like a therapy session. Tell me about your childhood, but where did you grow up and where are you from?
Yeah, so I was born in Des Moines. I have two parents, a sister, born in 1978. So I'm kind of in that kind of in between generation. I'm kind of Gen X, I think, technically.
Sure.
But there's a phrase I heard a while ago that I kind of fit inside this what they call the Oregon Trail generation, right?
Okay.
The reason why is that like when I was young, computers were not a thing in the house. Cable was brand new, right? By the time I graduated from high school, we had the internet and email and cell phones. So basically the Oregon Trail generation comes from the fact that we were likely a group of people that sat in a computer lab in elementary at some point and played Oregon Trail. So
sure. What was it like growing up? I mean, you would have been growing up in the 80s then, right?
A lot of the 80s and then graduated from high school in the late 90s. So.
Okay. Because I know, people always ask, this is a trivia question my family's had of like, if you could live in any decade in history, when would it be? And everyone said the 80s, myself included. I'm like,
oh, 90s, 100%.
Oh, you think the 90s? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think a lot of people miss the nostalgia of like no internet. Like you go to a concert and people would just be like watching the music and there. And like if you grew up you're in a crappy school, you could literally just move down the street and go to a new school and no one knew who you were. Like now your reputation follows you. So, and I just feel like a lot of people, like if you ask my dad specifically, he still wishes he lived in the 80s because it was just like more carefree, everything was a party. It was fun and not as serious, so.
Yeah, no, I say 90s. If you think about it, though, internet really wasn't a thing until the late 90s. Right. So yeah, you still would get a lot of that. But I'm a kid of young adult who enjoyed a lot of punk rock shows. So that wasn't as much of a thing in the 80s. So for me, that would be the kicker.
Sure. So you kind of you're born into this generation of like the Oregon Trail kids. Like tell me what's next in the story here.
Yeah. So born in Des Moines, I lived there until I was about 10, kind of northeast area near Grandview College.
Okay.
And then my parents decided to go someplace a little bit smaller schools. Which sounds funny if I say this, if anyone's from this area, but we moved to Ankeny. At the time, that would be like 88. So at the time,
so it was like a farm town back then.
Not a farm town, but if you're familiar with the town, Delaware was a dirt road. So so it was smaller for sure. It's grown quite a bit, obviously. So then, I really grew up there from about 10 on, and graduated from high school from there. Went on to Iowa State for. I would love growing up. I loved art. I loved drawing. I spent hours just sitting there, just drawing and messing around and on paper and pen and colors and whatnot.
Sure.
And so, not really knowing what I wanted to do. My dad was a math head type person. I was not. My mom was a teacher. I didn't really have a desire for that. So I went into Iowa State to really kind of do art. Not really sure what I wanted to do, to be honest. I wasn't a graphic design major there. I wasn't a fine arts major. It was something they called visual studies. So I think this is partially my personality and why I've kind of landed where I have. I was really curious. Like I wanted to try painting and printmaking and animation and at the time, web design, which was like you type a bunch of code into a Word doc and then you upload it to the internet and you're like, does this work? No, it doesn't. Okay, let's try it again. And so I had a broad experience there. I did radio shows. I did help with TV production. I started a ska band. I did all these things that were a ton of fun. But after about 3 years, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was kind of running out of money. So I took a break. I worked for a while, managed a video store there in town, which is a bygone day. So managed a video store. I wound up getting married about that time, and just was kind of wandering, doing jobs. I took a job as in a call center at Nationwide at the time, Actually, I think it was called Allied. They kind of bought Allied and
Okay.
kind of got absorbed in Nationwide. I took a call center job there and did that for about a year. And that was really the catalyst that kind of kicked me in the rear end and got me back into school.
Was it just miserable for you?
For me, you know what?
I feel like it's just a sweltering desert for the average person that's just like, hi, how you doing? Like, go die. You're like, click. You're like, uh-oh.
I hate talking on the phone. There are people who do it and do it well, and I give them all the kudos they deserve. It was a slow death for me. So I decided to go back to school and actually went to DMAC at the graphic design program there, which is a 2-year program. And for me at the time, being young, married, no money, it was about the best option I had. What it wound up being was honestly a great option. It's a great program.
Sure.
I learned a lot, met some great people, and honestly made some connections that to this day I still have in my career. And so it was a great opportunity there at DMAC, and that's that. Since then, I've been working.
Sure. Well, as you're kind of going through this journey of like you said, discovering different mediums and different ways to create things, what were some of the things that drew you to different, or kind of have you land on graphic design of all the different art mediums out there?
Yeah, I got more involved with. So when I was at Iowa State, I got more involved with like bands and organizations. I helped with creating posters or flyers or things like that. And I had some friends who were in graphic design. And the more I learned about really what graphic design was, and that's really, problem solving at its core, and creativity at its core is problem solving. I really started to enjoy it. I got into it. I really enjoyed the animation aspect of it. So at the time, Flash was a new and upcoming technology. And Flash really allowed me to kind of enjoy the design piece of it, but also the animation and some of the interactive aspects. So when I came out of school, I actually wound up doing primarily Flash design. So I was what would be called an interactive designer at the time. I worked on a lot of CD-ROMs, a lot of web applications and things like that. Honestly, I think one of the things growing up playing video games or things like that, you play these things or you interact with technology and you see how it works and how that interface works, and it makes you kind of interested in seeing like what's behind this and how can I make this better, and that's kind of what drove that interactive design. Over time, of course, Flash is no more. After Effects is closest thing probably to what we had as Flash in the day.
Sure.
But over time, I'm like, I'm more interested in print design and other things. And so through my career, I've kind of moved around and tried different things and not gotten so pigeonholed into just like one area. But I think I'm meandering a little bit here, but I think it's interesting as throughout my career, as graphic design has changed and grown, it seems like we're starting to see more kind of specialization again. Obviously, video is a huge. There's a huge cost from a technology standpoint. There's a huge cost, even just a knowledge curve on understanding how to shoot, how to light, how to edit, how to, and so that makes complete sense. But I would say even within marketing teams, you're seeing people focusing more on either the social media aspect of, really focusing on how do you create effective and impactful ads and designs and things that are meant to be absorbed quickly in moments. And you have people who tend to be a little bit more focused on either brand or on, like page layout and things like that. So it's kind of come full circle where there's a time where people were very specialized in what they did before the computer. The computer comes along and kind of opens that up to a lot of people to try different things. And it almost feels like we're kind of coming a full circle again, where people tend to to specialize a bit more.
Sure. No, I totally agree. And I think it's interesting seeing the different mediums because obviously I produce videos and like know and am knowledgeable about that area, but I'll even watch videos of a logo designer do a full, here's a client came to us, here's their business, here's the entire process of us designing their logo, how my brain works to design it.
Yeah.
And that is super interesting to me to see how someone's brain puts that together. Or like a photographer and you see, granted it's similar to what I do, but there's definitely nuance there. You learn some different things from other mediums. Have there been other mediums that you never dove into that you drew inspiration from or that you're like always enamored with as well? Or
I think it seems like every graphic designer wishes they were an illustrator. And I think I was as well. I mean, I loved drawing as a kid. But it is that talk about a specialized field. Like that is something that you kind of have to have something special to be an illustrator. One of my former interns and a friend of mine, his name is Smile Boyabasic. He went to DMAC. I got to know him when I was on the advisory board there as he was a student, and he became my intern when I was at a company called Navigate. But he's one of those people who can just illustrate, and he thinks it and he can put it down on paper or digital now. So kind of to your point, it's interesting now you see these, so Smile and others who will draw using a program like Procreate, right? And it records all the different pen strokes and the pencil strokes and all the colorings. And so you'll see this piece that he's finished, I think, and then he'll post like the animation of the process. So you get to see how he started and, deletes things or erases things and continues to build on it. And so, if I were to be able to turn on a switch and say, I'd have a skill beyond what I have, it'd be an illustration for sure.
For sure. No, and I used to be very well versed in Illustrator when I was in high school. I was in yearbook and I did the online newspaper as well. So I was an illustrator all the time. And then 20 years later, like you kind of just like lose that skill set. Like, dang it, I wish I would have like kept a little bit more in the tank for knowledge on that. Cause there's always those things that you kind of pull from where, even like Photoshop, if you know general Photoshop, like that's a good skill to have. There's things that are crossover. So, so as you're going through this career path, you start out as like a career graphic designer. What were those first couple roles like before you started moving into more of like a management role?
Yeah.
Walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah. No, my first job out of school I was told was a graphic design position. It was, I won't name the company, but it was at a printer. And it was a great education, but it was really database management is what it wound up being.
Sure. The old bait and switch on you. Now you're a data entry analyst.
Yeah.
I want to design things.
I once in a while would prep some files for print. That'd be about the closest I'd get. But I learned a lot about print while I was there. So, I mean, again, I think no matter what the role is or the job is, whether it's good or bad or however you want to call it, you always learn something from it. So, but beyond that, when I came out of school, I wound up after that, I started working with a kind of a small agency, maybe how you would put it. It was really a collective of freelancers. And it was a husband and wife that put this together. It was a great opportunity, and I did a lot of flash design, did a lot of work. We did a lot of work for the corporations in Des Moines, did a lot of interactive presentations, CD-ROMs, that type of thing. And then my wife and I got pregnant, and I needed insurance. So I went looking for a job. And I was going to a church up in Ankeny called Prairie Ridge. And at the time, they were looking for a director of creative, whatever. And that really entailed, so I wound up being hired there. It entailed doing all the graphic design work for the church, but also managing the music teams and the production teams, the lighting and sound mixing and video work and all that. And so
did you guys live stream as well, like services? At
the time, live streaming wasn't a huge thing, but podcasts were getting off the ground. So I actually don't know why podcasts are called podcasts, because I'm that old. So, I mean, we would do some things like that. we would record videos and post videos, but live streaming wasn't really a thing at the time. I don't think YouTube was. I think it existed, but it wasn't that far along at the time. I think even so, but it gave me a lot of different experiences. Everything from learning how to mix sound, whether I did it well or not, at least learned the basics and lighting and, all that fun stuff. And then I did that for a few years. And then again, through connections, I learned about a opening at Aviva at the time, downtown, which became Athene. So this will become full circle. But so I started there as an interactive designer, doing Flash mainly, and that moved into doing kind of broadening and getting more involved with print design and internal communications and all the things that in-house teams do. I think in-house teams are probably the example of kind of the still where agencies maybe you'll tend to work on a certain client or a certain type of work. In-house teams, you tend to kind of be a jack of all trades, so you kind of jump into whatever's needed. So I worked there for about 6 years. Had a really good mentor and leader, and she really gave me opportunities to present in front of leadership. She gave me opportunities to dig into projects, whether it be helping run United Way campaigns internally or taking on a new product launch, all those types of things. And so through the time there, I started to take on more responsibilities. She kept kind of, nudging me out a little bit further towards the edge at times and jump, check it out. And so over the years I was there, I kind of worked my way up into higher roles within the graphic design kind of lane. And in 2013, we were sold as a company to Athene, and I was kept on. They broke off part of the group and sold that off, but I stayed on with Athene and became the manager of the creative team there. And then we got through the rebrand, and I got thinking I could stay here and do well, or I can go out and try to get some different experience. And so I actually wound up leaving Athene at that time and became a creative director. So sometimes it's kind of one of those things, especially in the design field, if you have a good structure and good leadership and good mentors, you often can see yourself kind of grow within an organization. But sometimes you kind of have to leave to try to get that next step, right? And that was a situation here. I think I would have, if I would have stayed, I may be where I'm at today, maybe. But I think leaving was the right step because it provided me some broader perspectives and some experiences that I was able to then come, a few years ago, come back to Athene and bring that to my team. So that was good.
Because what did you feel like you were missing when you left the first time to go elsewhere? What were some of those things?
I wanted to get more of a agency experience, not just have one client to be the company, but have multiple clients and work with different brands and things like that. I went to a company called ITA Group in Des Moines. It's not the traditional agency, but it is an agency structure. We had to, we had clients that we had to pitch to and present to and try to sell communication plans and creative to. So that was, honestly, that was the first time I really had to try to sell and truly sell an idea that would potentially make the company money, right? So while I was there as a creative director, I not only led creative within the clients I worked on, but I also worked on the pitches for those. I often went to and pitched to the clients. And then I'd also have to manage all the margins on those projects, and learned a lot about production, learned a lot about team management from a technical standpoint. And it was truly one of the first times that gave me an opportunity to lead creatives. So as a designer, it was the first time I started to step away and say, okay, I'm going to give this project in the hands of another designer. I'm going to try to give them direction, but yet I need to let them have ownership over it, right? So that was a huge learning curve of how do I lead but not micromanage their design.
Sure.
And so it was great opportunity, great experience. But yeah.
I was going to say, I'm also got a little tickle in my throat. Did you ever have a moment when you first started doing that where you were being a bad leader, I guess you would say, or like not giving the team what they needed in terms of micromanaging people, or is it like fighting against your natural instinct to say or do something a certain way? You're like, was there anything like that you went through personally?
I mean, I think everyone kind of figures it out. I'm definitely much more of a empathetic person. So like I'm always the one like, oh, you look like you're having a hard day. Like, whereas there are some creatives who are just like, I have no idea you were, even in your desk. So, so I think from a perspective of micromanaging, I feel like I did a pretty good job of not jumping into that issue. I think for me, a lot of it was I think what I struggled with at first was how do I get my creative idea across to them without having to do the work myself, right? So I'm a visual person. I would rather just design it and show you. And how do I give you direction without doing it for you? And allowing you to have a voice in there, like, and add your pieces that maybe I wasn't thinking about, or or how do I deal with the situation where, like, okay, you brought something in there. I'm like, this isn't the direction we should go. How do I help guide you back towards something that maybe is a little bit more in the middle between both of our ideas? And so I don't know that I would say I did anything that was like a huge mistake, but I think it was kind of a gradual, like, ooh, okay, I caught that. Next time I'm going to do it differently, or, that type of thing. But I honestly had a great group of designers, writers that I was working with that made that job probably a lot easier than it could have been.
Sure.
So I appreciate that.
Well, I think even working with both, because I've had experience in the agency world before I started my company, and it's the same thing. It's like you got a lot of really creative people that you have to kind of manage or figure out, and you don't want to suppress that, how the brain works, because that's why they're in that seat. But also, you have to make money. You have to manage project. You have to hit billable hours, whatever your metric is, So you have to kind of like, I don't know, I equate it to the film industry too. It's like where people create films and movies, but it has to be within the budget. And there's a studio manager that doesn't understand anything creative, but they're asking questions. And it's like, what was that like for you, man, or being able to communicate like the needs of your team versus your higher ups at the companies that are trying to, kind of like speak both languages, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I've always been drawn to collaboration, and honestly, I think that's helped in that's being a collaborative person has probably allowed me to be successful in what I'm doing. And that's not just from a creative standpoint. That's even like, okay, having the ability to hear someone say, I don't like this. Well, how do we get to that in itself is not helpful, right? So how do I guide you through a conversation? How do I ask you questions? And sometimes if you're high enough a leader, how do I do that gently so I'm not sounding combative or I'm questioning you or your ideas? But how do I get to that core issue that really makes it something that you don't quote unquote like? So sometimes just by getting through and asking questions, having that conversation, you find out, oh, they don't like this color. Well, that's easily enough. I mean, that's easy. That's an easy fix, and then they're happy. Other times, it is a core idea of something that they, don't like the direction of, and that can be a good conversation. But I think it has to do with being able to listen to people, and also trying to figure out, okay, this is what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct? Not making assumptions, things like that.
Sure.
And the same goes with trying to work with creatives and lead creatives. I think being a collaborator helped that process quite a bit. Some of my colleagues who were very much more like, this is my vision, this is my thing. To be frank, those are the creative directors that designers and writers typically didn't enjoy working with, because we all want to see our fingerprint on what we do. I think very few people, I think, probably want to sit there and not think about what they do during the day, and they just want to do stuff and get a paycheck and then leave. I think we all want to kind of have some effect or some part of our identity into what we do. And so in creatives, we can be a sensitive bunch.
Sure.
So
especially if you attack the work, because you pour yourself into the work, and then if I have a problem with the work, I got a problem with you, and it's like, no, that's not like, it's one of those deals. You got to like detach your soul from what you've created.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a different conversation, right? But I think as creatives, I mean, one of the hardest things you learn when you first get out of school is what are those hills I'm going to die on?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is not one of those things, or sometimes there's like, is this a 3-hour project or is this a half an hour project? They could all be 3-hour projects, but sometimes I just need to be able to figure out which ones do I really put my time and energy into, which ones do we just do a good job but get it done and get it out.
Sure. One, not being that the creative liaison, if you will, not just being a yes man, saying, oh, the team can do it, when we might not be the best solution, or if you just nod your head all the time, and then it's like, none of us know how to do this, and we're probably not going to do a very good job, but we'll put something out there, So I think it's an interesting dichotomy there. A question I had for you too is, now that you've gone through, and we'll get to your current day in a second, but you've gone through the paces of being a creative, managing creatives, and then on the corporate side. I feel like a lot of times creative gets lost in the corporate world. What does it take to be good at corporate creative? What's the secret sauce to be having good corporate creative?
I think part of it starts with, do you want to be corporate creative? I actually learned that, having taken the journey I did, I actually learned that I liked in-house work. I liked owning the brand. I liked understanding that I held the future of that brand. I'm able to help shape it. I'm able to help move it forward. There may always, no matter where you're at, there may be leaders who have very strong opinions on what the brand should be or isn't or is. But as a designer, as a creative within that in-house marketing team, you more than anyone else understand the DNA of what the company stands for, what the brand is. You're the one that gets to either move it forward in a leap and a jump, or move it forward in little steps, right? And I really learned that I liked owning that. Because I like that, I think I'm able to navigate some of the aspects of corporate life, of red tape, of sometimes people, not intentionally, but people are busy. And so trying to get them to weigh in on something, or trying to get less people to weigh in on something, because you can have a lot of cooks in the kitchen when it comes to corporate work. And it depends on what the piece is, right? Some things are higher profile. When they're higher profile, more people want to make sure that they are involved, or at least they have their voice in it. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just learning how to navigate that. And if you don't love owning the brand, then I would say that becomes more difficult. When I work with designers on my team, I sometimes have a conversation where I say, hey, this may be something that you do for a few years, and you check it out and you decide, I'm going to go more agency work, or go stay in-house, or do something different. I encourage them to try to figure that out, because I want them to be happy. If they're in my team, I want them to be happy with what they're doing and kind of enjoy the work they're doing. If agency is definitely the way they want to go, that's great. Just understand that what in-house team is and what agency work is. And there's benefits and there's negatives for both. And it just comes down to like, what do you enjoy doing? Do you like, hey, buddy, how's it going?
The dog's making an appearance.
Yeah. So is it something that do you want to jump and have lots of variety and get into lots of different brands and maybe not own them very much and just have kind of a little bit more restriction, but it's variety?
Right.
Or do you want to really have that deep relationship with the brand? And so that's kind of how I kind of parse it out.
Sure. Well, I think it's an interesting place where creative is now because there's, especially in the last couple of years since COVID, the last couple of years since COVID, we've had, gig work has popped off, has been very popular. I feel like I shouldn't say most, but a large percentage of in-house creatives probably do something on the side, I would assume, because it scratches that itch for them. If they're, if they work in-house and they're connected to the brand, the mission, but they still want to do things that scratch that itch or kind of tickle that fancy, so to speak.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people still do that or freelance outside of work. And it's not necessarily, yes, it's another income stream, but it's also, it's stoking the fires of passion for that medium so they don't lose it, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely encourage all my team to get involved with groups outside, even if you're not getting paid to do things, working with a nonprofit that you have a passion for or something like that. And just getting some more experience and using your talents in different ways for sure. I think getting back to your original question, like how do you keep that creative spark within in-house teams? I think a lot of it is understanding that, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we do. If I want to get some different experiences, like, am I getting involved with groups, networking groups in the area and learning? Like, there's tons of opportunities to be fed from creativity. Are you out there? Like, what are you going out and looking at to get inspiration and thoughts and ideas? And then even within in-house work, there's opportunities. There are times where it's like we need to toe the corporate brand line, right? But there's opportunities always where you have a little bit more freedom to do something. And at those times, like, I really kind of get on my team's case if they're not making the most of that, right? So when you have those opportunities, that's really your time to really kind of dig in and do something, outside of that safety net of brand, brand structure, things like that. I also I'm fortunate to work for a company that really does invest in our employees as far as like conferences and opportunities to get out there. Most of my team has, within the last year, has had multiple chances to go out to do, whether it be Adobe Max or whether it be what used to be a How Design Conference. I think that's on a pause at the moment. But,
sure.
Or Marketing World, or you name it. There's lots of opportunities out there. And our team is, we have a company that invests in that, which is nice. It's not always the case. There's been times where it's like, okay, if you're lucky in 5 years, you might be able to go to one conference. So, so I do appreciate that, but even without that money or the cost of a conference like that, there's lots of opportunities. Maybe because I'm older, but I do like Instagram from a sense of, I know some people do have other platforms that they follow, but I keep, that and Pinterest. I'm still a Pinterest user.
There you go.
I think
it's 85% of users are women, so you're holding down the minority. So somebody's got to.
I was an early adopter and I still use it. But I love it just from basically creating light boards of just creative ideas and things you post or people post out there, designers post. So my algorithms send me a lot of typography and page layout and in brands. So not so much some of the other topics that other people follow, but no, I enjoy it.
That's great. Well, I know and we've kind of bounced around now, you're with Athene now. Talk me through kind of the structure of your team and kind of what your I wouldn't say day to day, but like what your responsibilities are in this new role.
Yeah. So, I've been back now for about 2.5 years, a little over 2.5 years. So I oversee a team of designers and copywriters within the marketing team, the broader marketing team. So I have a manager who oversees all our designers, and I have a manager that oversees our copywriters. I work with our whole team around just the development of our team, whether it be recognition and involvement and stuff like that, or whether it be how are we moving forward with the technology that we have, or how are we moving forward the brand and presenting. I did tend to focus more on the strategy of the brand versus the day-to-day work. In fact, I don't really design much anymore. I do miss designing a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So I do have to find those opportunities outside of work to kind of feed that creative itch. But kind of going back to what I said earlier on in this conversation, I do really see creativity at its core as being problem solving. And problem solving sometimes means a page layout or a video edit or, something else creative. But sometimes it is problem solving is, that creative itch is, trying to figure out, okay, we have an issue here we need to try to solve. So how do I bring my creative team along with our content team or our media team or our product team? How do we figure out a solution to this issue that we have? And to me, I mean, that's, if I'm able to dig in and solve problems, that really does scratch the creative itch more than anything else, I think. I love collaborating with people, figuring out a solution, an issue, and then, trying to execute on that.
Sure. But no, and I think it's an interesting comparison for myself as well, because it's like there's the like you said, the core root of the problem is the creative is doing something. It's communicating the brand message or the vision, or the copywriting has to appeal to a certain audience that's listening or reading it. Same thing with like video too. It's the goal is to get them to get to the end of this video and have some kind of feeling, emotion, action, whatever. Like, where do we want them all to end up at the end of this video? And I think that's at the core of it, like you said, all creative does that. It's communicating a message, but solving a problem at the same time. So,
and you have 1,000 ways that you can get there, right?
Right.
And so it is kind of like, ooh, which path do I take?
Yeah, and I think it's fun too, because being on the agency side, but then also doing my own production company now, it's like new problems come in every day. It's like, oh, we need to hire better people. Like, oh, we can make a video for that, or we need to sell this to a certain audience, or we have only 30 seconds to communicate that. It's like the problem is established, but then you kind of build a system for it too. So there's pros and cons to it, but I think that's what keeps the creative solution juices flowing for everyone, is just like knowing your fences and where to stay within the yard, but then you can run around and there's not like a what's the thing that people always say, like, it's really good to get creative as a creative, but if you get creative in like accounting or some other thing like that, that's illegal and you'll probably go to jail. So find the industries that encourage you to like stretch the rules and be a little more creative rather than something else that you really can't do that.
I would argue, though, I hear you, but I would argue that there's tons of ways to be more efficient at accounting, maybe.
Sure.
And you're problem solving that, right? You're getting creative in how you utilize technology in order to do your job and do it better. No, it can be a challenge on in-house teams, but it's also something that I enjoy quite a bit.
Sure. No, I love it. We'll take a pause here. We'll do our lightning round. I had a couple questions here. Let's see if I can track them down. You mentioned that you're not really on the product side of what you guys do or the knowledge base of all the stuff. One of my first questions, which will be kind of funny, is we have an annuities and finance test here.
Oh, great.
So they're true false questions. You got a 50% chance. The first question is, if an owner of an annuity dies, the insurance company keeps the money in the annuity. True or false?
False.
Correct. 4 out of 10 Americans answered correctly, and you got it right, so that's good. Next question. Taxes on annuity earnings are not levied until the annuity owner withdraws them. True or false?
True.
Correct. 50% of people got that one right normally too. Okay, 2 left here. Annuity owners cannot use funds from workplace retirement plans or pensions to fund annuities.
False.
Correct. Can he get the turkey? Here we go. Last one. Annuity owners will lose all of their money if an insurance company goes out of business.
False.
Correct. You just passed the gauntlet. Ding, ding, ding. We got all the noises here. I think I might have. There we go. We'll get some crowd applause here.
Nothing more creative than that.
There you go. Okay. No more annuities talk. You passed the gauntlet. We were talking about the 80s earlier. Can you name 4 movies from the 80s that were made in the 80s?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go for it. What do you got?
Goonies.
Okay. Great first, by the way. Great first choice.
Right. Breakfast Club.
Yep.
Which I just saw the cast of. I was with my son at Comic-Con in Chicago.
No way.
And it was the first time that cast reunited since the making of Breakfast Club.
What's who is the jock? Is it
Emilio Estevez?
Emilio Estevez. How's he doing these days?
He's doing good. He's directing a bunch.
Okay.
But
very cool.
So he didn't go the Corey Feldman route.
Sure.
So, no offense, Corey Feldman.
I got 2.
Yeah,
Goonies, Breakfast Club.
Well, I mean, of course, I'm a Star Wars kid, so Empire Strikes Back came out in the 80s. So did Return of the Jedi.
Sure. You got it.
Yeah, John Hughes. Most of his films are from the 80s. So everything from Weird Science to Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yep, I was going to say Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 16 Candles, and then there's a couple other like Animal House probably.
That was
maybe 90s?
70s.
Oh, 70s. Okay, a little bit too premature there. And then I think first Terminator was 85.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So, yeah, love it. That's great. You're rolling through these really easily. I thought I'd stump you on the first couple ones. I'm like, crap, maybe he doesn't read the pamphlets, but you probably do now that you have to manage other people.
I know enough to be dangerous. You definitely, other than that. Honestly, the copywriters have the lion's share of understanding the product more.
Sure. When I was in the agency world, I used to produce ag podcasts, so I know like way more about agriculture than I thought I would, just because I have to sit there and listen to everything. I'm like, I'm kind of learning something here.
Yeah.
Name the 3 U.S. states that start with the letter O.
Oregon, Oklahoma.
Got one more.
Ohio.
There you go. You got them all 3. That's great. In your personal opinion, what is a subject that you think should be taught in K through 12 schools that isn't taught now?
That's a tough question because I have 2 kids in K through 12 still. Actually, 3.
Is there homework that you're helping them with? Like they're still teaching this?
I mean, honestly, like cursive is something that I think
that's a good one.
I think all my kids actually have done some of it. They do it for like a month or 2, but I think handwriting, cursive, being able to do that is good. Man, they learn so many more things than we did at their age. It is insane. I think maybe how to look things up in the library that's not electronic.
There you go. That's a good one. I would say mine would be personal finance, understanding like how to manage money, because that's like it's a life skill that you know. If no one teaches you how to do it, you never know. And then probably just like, I mean, you already have to have like a government, like a year of government, which I think is good, but probably like a deeper understanding of like just how that whole system works, because so many people
and how deep it goes. But
Sure.
yeah,
No, I love it. If you're having creative block, what's your creative block remedy? What's the one way to get out of a creative block for you?
that's a good one. Usually take a walk, get out, get away from my desk, get moving.
Any specific routes or places you like to walk to kind of just get your mind flowing?
Outdoors, if possible, depending on what type of year it is in Iowa. But no, I think just getting away from distractions of your desk and sometimes just being stuck at your desk. And then music. I mean, I'm a huge fan of music, and music is one of those things that putting that on can get my creative juices flowing faster than most anything else. So just honestly, the fact that I don't design day to day anymore, really. I used to listen to a lot of music when I would design, so I do miss doing that, but I still listen to it just on my off hours.
Sure. No, that's great. You passed the gauntlet of the lightning round. Congratulations. I don't think you missed one question. That's good.
That's pretty easy, I think.
I'll have to put some harder questions on next time for you. Next question I had for you, just kind of bring it back full circle with the brand stuff. What makes a good brand great?
What makes a good brand great? Honestly, I think it's the company behind the brand. You can spend all the money in the world. You can have the best agency and designers and creatives working on it, but if the company itself isn't true to what that brand is being kind of set up as, it doesn't fall through. So, if you have I don't know, whatever it is, if especially consumer brands, right? That's an easy one to be able to judge, right? Do they follow through on the promise? And so as an in-house design team, we do a lot of the work ourselves, but we also still work with a lot of outside partners, a lot of agencies. I have a brand agency that we work with to help give us outside perspectives, right? Give us fresh ideas at that. I think that's one of the things that being an in-house team, you really, I think maybe one of the things that is a challenge for in-house team is that, yes, you are so close to the brand, you own it, but sometimes you're a little too close and it's kind of hard to step back and get a fresh perspective. So I think it's important to engage, even as in-house team, outside resources to kind of give you some different ideas, challenge you a bit, and then work with them, and the team then takes and runs with it. But I'm all that to say that we work with an agency out of Minneapolis, and we have since Athene has been a company. And the creative director I work with there, he always says the brand is a promise kept. I'm not sure if he made it up or where it came from, but it's one of those things that I think kind of always sticks with me. Is like, okay, what's that promise that we're making? And our brand should be the fulfillment of that promise, right?
Sure. I love that. And I think there's so many good examples now where people are taking, like, I would say boring or normal or stagnant industries and coming in, like new players are coming in with a brand that actually speaks to the customer base. And when you see a brand and you see a mirror of like yourself, you immediately are like, I've got to do business with these people because they're like me,
Yeah.
So I think that's a big piece too, is like cutting through the noise and having a product or service, but then also like having a reason why and a very clear like who it's for type of thing. Because I don't know, a good example is like what is like baby wipes, like the Dude Wipes brand. They rebrand a baby wipe to be for men and make it all around men. So then if men are needing baby wipes, they're like, hey, that's for me. Like I don't feel weird doing or whatever. Or it's like same thing. It's like, oh, you need your haircut, but you could go to like a really like ritzy salon in like Rodeo Drive type of thing. But if you're just a dude that wants like straight hairs or shave and feeling like comfortable, like you'd go to a barbershop for that same experience. It's just the brand promise that aligns with like you as a person, I think is a big piece too.
I think too, like working in the financial industry, That's hard. It can be hard, right? Annuities.
Riveting stuff.
How do you make that personal? Like what is it that annuities provide you? What is that promise that they make for you? And we worked through a creative exercise in that, and we landed on the idea that let's make retirement remarkable, right? So it's not just about having money. That's important, but through our product, through our services, are we able to help provide you a retirement that allows you to really pursue those goals and those dreams that you have? What's that life outside of work, right? Beyond work, and it's hard. I think certain things, life insurance, I think was a lot easier to try to when we were Viva, we had life insurance as well. And I think that's a lot easier story to tell, right? Because it's a product.
Like, if you die, we'll give your loved ones money so they can continue on. It's like more cut and dry compared to annuities,
Yeah. I mean, you can't, it's definitely easier, but I think that's part of the challenge, right? That's part of the creative challenge of working in a in-house team in general, but also working in industries like financial industry. How do you who's your audience? Because the people selling your products aren't as concerned about the touchy-feely side of it, but how do you instill the trust and in the strength and the ability to follow through on those promises as a company or things like that. So it's fun and interesting work, and I didn't think that's where I'd be when I started my career, but I'm happy with where I'm at, and it's been good.
Sure. Well, and it's as you mentioned, the challenge of, you could work for a really sexy, sleek brand that's like way more easy to explain, or, people gravitate, but it's like now you have like I would call it a quote unquote boring industry, but it's like, how do we use brand to actually communicate that well? It's a new challenge or a different challenge, which I think is it was a rewarding process, I'm sure. So
yeah, they're both different, right? It's different flavor. And how do you tackle this? How do you solve this problem versus that problem?
Sure.
And, yeah,
no, I love it. We were talking about kind of brands that stick out. What are some of your favorite consumer B2C brands and why?
I love Saucony shoes because they're the most comfortable things ever.
Okay.
I own a pair in multiple colors, and just it's one of those things. Let's see what else. I love Fender guitars.
Okay.
Again, it's there's the brand side of it, the kind of the history of rock and roll and kind of how they played a role through that. But it's also how they play, and it's comfortable. I mean, how comfortable do you feel with the product? I always like not that I don't buy Nike, but one thing I've always appreciated and always have been envious of is Nike has an in-house team. I don't know if you know that, but yes, they use agencies, but they have a complete built-out in-house team that does crazy stuff, and that's a brand that has always pushed the boundaries of what a athletic clothing company or shoe company can do. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's
them and Apple are probably the two biggest brands in the world. Like, you see the logo, 99% of the world knows what that is. That's powerful. Like, you go to the mall, that doesn't say Nike on the sign. They just put a swoosh, and you know exactly what that is.
What's funny though is that if you look at Nike, it tends to be more about the experience, right? And it's always about like, what can you do? Like, what it's about you, and how does Nike fit into you and your personality? Apple, if you think about it, is more about packaging. Like, yes, there's been ads, but for the most part, they're known for just their design of their product.
Right. Sleek, minimalistic. If that's how you want to design your life, like, Apple products fit in perfectly. No, totally get it. For me, I would say, and this is like, I was trying to do some reflection on this morning when I was writing these questions, because I'm like, there are definitely brands that stick out to me. Number one is probably Coca-Cola. I'm not a big pop person, but if I go to the movies, I have to have a Coca-Cola. Like, it's part of my child. I'm a huge movie guy, but like it literally takes you back to like when you're 5 or 6 going with your parents or your grandparents to the movies and you have a big old thing of popcorn, your ice cold Coke. So I think I'm like to the point where I'm like a movie snob. If I go to a theater and they do Pepsi, I'm like, we got to go somewhere else. Like I can't do it. So
I used to be that way, but then I found Pepsi Zero.
Oh, there you go.
And it's about the closest thing Pepsi has ever gotten to a Coke.
Sure. And that's great. So that's one. The other one for me is Jeep. So I drive a Jeep, and it's like that connects to me more on like the adventure, the outdoorsy stuff. Also not driving a car that you're super worried about getting it dirty or whatever. It's that type of thing. And I think, again, it's like they do such a good job with that brand, knowing that it's kind of taken on legs. It's kind of like Harley. Like there's motorcycles, there's Yamaha, Honda, whatever, but then there's like a Harley. And same thing with like Jeeps. It's like the car version of that where there's inside jokes and secret hand waves and like people put ducks on the door. Like there's a whole subculture within a product, which is like, I think just lighting a bottle because they couldn't have designed that better if they tried, So
people get passionate about those brands, right?
Yes. And people pay a premium for certain things. If it's got a Jeep, whatever, like I know they have a wagon, like a kid's wagon, you can buy them on Amazon for $50. But if you get the Jeep branded wagon, it's like $350. It's like, oh, it's got a Jeep on there, So it's one of those things. I think if people are listening and they're trying to build a brand that stands out, what would you say is like 1 or 2 elements that really makes a brand pop or resonate or something that makes it stick in someone's mind or is recognizable?
You're saying brand, not like a creative concept or campaign, right?
Right. Just in general, like overall, like in a brand, what's like 1 or maybe 2 elements that makes it resonate with people long term?
Honestly, I think it's that socialization. Like how do you connect with the brand, and does the brand help you connect with other people? So you gave examples of Jeep, right? Or Harley Davidson, right? Fellow Harley owners will have certain affinity for that relationship, right? It's I don't own a motorcycle. Same with Jeep. Same with I would say Nike to an extent, right? You know, there's a certain subculture of Nike owner, people who wear Nike, and
you see somebody with the really cool kicks on, like you got the Kobe 3s or whatever. It's like, whoa,
or the really old school, like I'm not expert by any means, but to me, I think it's that connection that you make with others because you both love Coke. All right. Or it's like, hey, I totally connected with your story there about having a Coke in the theater with popcorn. Like I can't see a movie and not have popcorn in a pop. And I grew up as a Coke person, and it was hard to go to Pepsi Zero, but
to switch sides.
it is a good product.
Sure.
But I don't have the affinity for Pepsi that I do for Coke. And some of it's just nostalgia as I get older. And, I used to make fun of my dad for doing this, but I'm doing it too. Like you're like, oh, back in the day, there was, I think Coke has had one of those iconic, their brand has been really the same for, generations now. So it's kind of that connection you have to it.
When I saw recently, they're re-releasing their Share a Coke campaign, which just absolutely crushed like 5 years ago when they launched it, where everyone just put people's names on it and like share a Coke with Ryan or share a Coke with Jake or Dylan or whatever, And now it's like your name's on it, like you're just in the grocery store, like, oh, that's got my literal name on it. I should probably buy it. It's one of those, like, you try different things and see what works, but I always think it's I think the brands that stand the test of time are the ones that tie into to those things that make us human, and they like align with that element. But then they also, like you said, have to deliver on the promise. You have to have a good product. You have to have good service. Yeah. I've seen plenty of companies that have amazing branding, and then you buy their product and you're like, this sucks. Like why, if their marketing people were half as good as their product design people, like this would be actually worth something. Because even in my world, like I've been an avid follower of Christian Guzman. He's a YouTuber, fitness YouTuber, and he also started a company called Alphalete, which is like a fitness clothing company. This was like 10 years ago. if I took all the products that I have from his product line the last 10 years that I bought, it would probably fill up like this whole room. Like there's so much stuff. But it's one of those things I have such brand affinity because he's documented his entire entrepreneurial journey. They've grown the company from like a little warehouse to now they're doing over 100 million a year in revenue and just understanding, like seeing his journey, and like I resonate with it because I'm a business owner and I've seen what he's done, and you have a little respect for that compared to like a faceless Adidas or Russell or whatever brand out there. So I think there's things that each brand will appeal to different people, but if they key in on that, like if you see the brand and you see like a mirror reflection of who you aspire to be or who you want to be or who you feel you are, I think that really is like lightning in a bottle. So,
well, I feel it sounds like that your example too. It sounds like you even made that connection early on in that product's life, right? You became connected to it when it was in its infancy, and then you having kind of been there from the beginning, you have a little bit more of affinity for it, and it's kind of like the people who get mad at bands for quote unquote selling out, right? It's like I knew them before they were big,
right?
It's kind of that.
I sold them at Woolies in '86,
right? Yeah. So yeah, Woolies in '80s. Was Woolies around?
Maybe, I don't know. It looks like an older building. Who knows? But no, I think that's really the big piece there. You mentioned earlier on too. We're almost done with your questions, I promise.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had some really key mentors earlier on in your career that really helped kind of direct you to where you're at today. Who's one of those mentors that really sticks out to you, and what's some of the guidance that they gave you to kind of push you to the next level in your career?
Can I give you a couple?
Sure.
So I would say first and foremost were my parents. We didn't really get into this, but I grew up with two parents that handicapped. So my dad was quadriplegic.
Oh my gosh.
Broke his neck when he was 17, was in a wheelchair, limited use of his hands and, his appendages and things like that. My mom is blind. My dad passed away in 2012. My mom's still kicking at 82. So, but I think with them, it was really the sense that, you know what, not everything's going to work out the way you think it is, and just keep moving, keep working at it. And I think I got a work ethic from them, or at least a ability to see a bigger picture and not always get tied up in the minute details or the drama at the moment. So obviously that's a huge kind of underlying piece of who I am as a person. I was mentioning when I worked at Aviva, I had a boss. Her name is Karen Cole-Leger. So shout out to Karen. I think she's in Indiana now these days. But she was one of those people who just, I think, saw a lot in me that I didn't know was there yet. And, as I've become further along my career, there's been people that I hope that I've done the same for them. But she was someone who, kind of pushed me like, ooh, I want you to do this. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. She's like, you can figure it out, but was never like throw you in the deep end and just let you swim or sink. She would, kind of throw me in the deep end, but then, if I needed a pool noodle, she had one, hanging over there. But she would kind of push me, get me outside my comfort zone, have me try things I didn't think I would want to or could try. And I think saw a lot of, hopefully, I hope that I'm a good leader. I think she saw in me an ability to lead a team. And so, and then I've had others since that have done it, in various ways. Every job I've had someone who's kind of, helped guide me or mentor me. But I would say Karen was probably that key one in my career when I was young at my career, and really gave me opportunities and really kind of invested into me in a way that, I hadn't had in a job setting before like that.
No, I love it. And I think there's even, I would say, negative mentors that help in an equal way, where you have somebody that maybe managed you that wasn't a very good manager, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take note of this. And when I'm in your position, I'm never going to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
You can learn from those things instead of, be like, shake your fist at the sky and be like, it's everyone else's fault. You can kind of learn from everything. So that's great.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Last question here, kind of a deeper, not deeper, but like thicker question. AI is this obviously the new thing coming out. It's all anybody ever wants to talk about. If you go to any conference, it's the whole thing is about AI and all this stuff. Yeah. How is AI shaping the marketing landscape in corporate America today?
The way I look at AI, I look at AI as a tool. AI is a tool, just like computers are a tool, right? There was a time that graphic design was done with paste-up boards where they were cutting out letters and they were waxing the backs of them and place them. It was very much a arts and crafts technical skill to do a page layout. And then the computer came along and everyone was like, the world's ending. There's not going to be any designers anymore. Well, of course there are designers. It's just you have to do it differently. And to be frank, there was less designers, or at least less, you had people that had very specific, I shouldn't say less designers. Let's put it this way. You had people who had very narrow specific jobs in the list of things that it took to get something printed and created. The computer kind of cut out a chunk of that, but it didn't cut out creatives, right? I have a guy on my team who's been with our company for 42 years. He started off working in our printer. And then when we say printer, we're talking like the big old school, like 4-color printers, right? Not what we think of like computer, like a little laser printer.
He's out there scribing things with a chisel on it.
Not that far.
Too far. Okay.
But, he's doing design today. In fact, he's our main resource internally for video work when we don't work with outside partners. Mainly because he's always willing to say, you know what, that's a new technology. I'm going to at least figure out how to use it. So the long answer to your short question. So I see AI as a tool. Like anything else, though, I think it's in its infancy. We need to be careful about how we use it. And we need to be careful about how it's referencing things. I mean, there's aspects to AI that we haven't figured out yet that we need to before it can become something that we use without at least having some guards up. Especially in the creative world, I think you look at stuff like Canva even, or, someone's like, I can design because I use Canva. Well, Canva's a tool. It can get you a lot further than you used to be able to with PageMaker or with PowerPoint or whatever it was that you used. But
Windows Paint,
right? MS Paint before that. But I'm concerned about like where those if you create an image using AI, what's being referenced. It doesn't create it out of the blue. It doesn't just create it from nothing. It creates it like us. Like we create things based off of all the inputs that we've had over the years or through our career or through, So when we see a film, I'm sure there's 1,000 references you've made to other video work, probably without even knowing it, right? Because you've seen it, something's kind of stuck with you and you're like, ooh, I'm going to angle it this way, or I'm going to light it this way, or I'm going to do, whatever it is. I think design and creating is the same way. I think, and I think AI is one of those situations where we just need to be careful about intellectual rights. Yeah, I think that needs to get worked out. We do use AI within our team. Our company and our industry is a very a regulated company, and we're very careful about how we use AI. Right now, currently, our team uses it more for some, initial drafts of things, or like you throw a bunch of disparate ideas into it and kind of get a first draft. It does not create a final draft by any means, right?
Sure.
But depending what the project is, can you get a thought down quickly and then work from there? And it'll save you time.
Sure. We use it a lot for ideation too, of just I need to come up with 20 YouTube video ideas in the next year. Like, here's my niche, here's the style, here's the channel reference, go. And then just again, you're not going to just literally copy and paste each one. Like, we're going to do this one. It just throws it on the wall, gets some ideas going, and then you see that, oh, it can like spark ideas or whatever. But
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of, especially with the writing side of it, and I'm sure your copywriting team's seeing this of like, there's the risk of people that are in copywriting just using that and leaning on that as a crutch and not only, not ever using their own inputs because like you said, they're going to pull it from somewhere else. So I think it's a challenge in the creative side, but also it's an opportunity where I think people's BS monitor will get very acute with AI when they're reading things or teachers or professors are grading things or whatever. It's like, was this written by a human? Like, I don't think so. It's too whatever, like fill in the blank,
Yeah. I would say too, just be clear too, like our instance of AI is not open to the world. So we actually have a very walled off version. It only references what we feed it internally. So, I mean, there's ways of using AI that's not like it's going out to the internet and grabbing everything, right? So, I mean, we are being very careful about how we use it, but we are testing it out, and we had to do as a company, we have to make a strong case as to why we'd even want to try to use an AI tool, and then we have to report on how it's being used, and we have to report on all these things, and that's even before it touches anything that would go external. So we tried out an image generator through Getty Images, and I use Getty with Getty as an example because Getty was the only company I've seen that is basically taking only images that it has licensed, and that's only the content it's referencing when it creates.
Sure.
So, and then they have also built out kind of that Spotify model where not only are they only referencing images that they have licensed, but they also are kind of paying pennies on the dollar or tenths of a penny, whatever it is. But they're at least acknowledging like, hey, these pieces were referenced in the creation of this. And they have kind of built out that model. I felt more comfortable kind of testing out that, but still not there yet. I mean, love our rep at Getty, and they're taking over the world when it comes to stock photography, right? But I at least appreciate their approach to it. And someday it will be there. It's just everything still looks fairly painted when it comes to AI generated imagery, and even with writing, it's not quite there yet either, right?
Sure.
But I think we just need to we need to be careful, but we also need to recognize that there's always been jumps in technology that have moved things forward, and it's not that it does away with people or creativity or artistry. It's a different tool and it's a different way to approach it, and it just kind of adds a new layer onto that.
Sure. No, I totally agree. I think it's something that I'm sure will shape the world just as the internet did. That'll change how people work and different things. But I think it'll challenge the creative side of people to think creatively. How do I use this tool creatively? But also, what types of work can't be done with AI? Some of those things, those questions come up as well. So,
yeah, I've seen there's some illustrators and some creatives that visual creators that I love, and they're railing against AI, and I get it. I mean, I feel like they are creating something out of their minds and with their hands that most people can't even try to attempt. I think they're yelling at the wrong things, but I don't think there's ever going to be just like books, right? At one point, people were like, "Oh, it's all going to be on our phone or digital. We're all going to read off a tablet." And no, I like touching a book. I like the paper. I like the neuroscience of touch, right? It's that, how does it make me feel when I'm holding paper versus it's a digital readout? And so, yeah, does it mean I don't use a phone or don't use that? No, of course I do. But there's times where I'm like, I want an actual book, not my phone. So.
No, I totally agree. And I think there's definitely places and times for technology, other times where there's not. Even with the show, we've had opportunities to interview some really high profile guests, but they can't come physically or we can't get there or whatever. I'm like, I only do the show in person. And they're like, well, why? I'm like, there's something about sitting in a room with someone and having a conversation that's different than doing it over Zoom. Like, I thought COVID would teach everybody that, but apparently not. So, there's definitely, I think, moments when you use it and moments when you don't, but it's cool to see the way you guys have applied it. So
yeah, like right now, I'm ignoring these, right? I kind of forgot they're there because we're talking.
Yeah. So it's interesting to seeing how it applies, and again, just using the brand to break through the noise is a big piece there too. So, really appreciate your time today. Where can people learn more about you, connect professionally with you, and if they're wanting to connect?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on social media, but that's all just kind of more.
Find him on Pinterest. Follow him on Pinterest for
funny story. I have like 10,000 followers on Pinterest.
Are you serious?
It's weird. I don't know why, but I think because I was an early adopter to the platform.
You've been putting stroganoff recipes up the last 10 years on there, haven't you?
Yeah, no stroganoff. It's all graphic design and music and other things. But LinkedIn. I don't even know my LinkedIn bio, but just look at Adam Clarke. Clarke has an E on the end. I'm here in Iowa.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Adam, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate the time. And really cool to kind of hear your career path and also just managing creative people, because I think it's a skill that a lot of people listening will benefit from, whether that's their own team or trying to figure out how to manage their own creativity and implement it different ways. So really appreciate your time.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, if you made it this far on the show, you guys know what to do. Make sure to give it a big subscribe if you're on YouTube or Spotify, and check us out on social media for clips from the other shows that we've done. But until next week, my name is Ryan Snod. It rhymes Snod, and I'm out. Peace. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with the Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace.